Today marks the end of the American experiment. We are now officially a failed country, a failed society. Donald Trump will be arrested, arraigned today, depending on when you're watching this video, that may have already happened, for what leaks say are 34 different felonies stemming from the perfectly legal non-disclosure agreement that he entered into with Sloppy Daniels back in 2016. But I'm sad to say that there is more bad news. What could have been a silver lining to the situation, a mugshot of the president, doesn't look like it's going to actually happen because the authorities know that it would be one of the most badass images and iconic images in the entire history of America. The Huffington Post cried that some politicians have tried using mugshots to boost political fortunes, and Time magazine showed some previous politicians who have been arrested and their smiling mugshots, like John Edwards, who was John Kerry's vice presidential running mate back in 2004, who was arrested for almost identical charges and acquitted. Former governor of Texas, Rick Perry, was indicted on some bogus charges, also acquitted. Former Congressman Tom DeLay was also indicted. I think he was actually convicted and possibly even sent to prison, which is what they seriously want to do to President Trump. For generations, Frank Sinatra's mugshot has been one of the most iconic mugshots of all, and sold on t-shirts. I remember it being sold on a shirt in Spencer Gifts back in the 90s when I was in high school. And I had my t-shirt distributor and graphic designer on standby waiting for the moment that President Trump's mugshot would be released. And then we would put it on a t-shirt and list it for sale on markdice.com. But the Marxist Democrats know how powerful that image would be. Here they are on the Clown News Network openly admitting that, discussing whether or not there would or wouldn't be a mugshot, and then admitting this.
But the real point is, once that mugshot is entered into the system where any police officer who runs the name Donald Trump with the right date of birth is going to be able to find it, the likelihood of it being improperly distributed is pretty high. And that ends up...
Improperly distributed? You mean released to the public and put on awesome t-shirts at markdice.com?
Basically on the prosecution. Why? Because it's not just their case to prosecute, it's their investigation, it's their arrest. So I think in a abundance of caution, they said, A, we don't need the mugshot, B, it's not legally required, and C, once it leaks, that's going to be against law and regulation.
It would be a rallying cry for the Make America Great Again movement. It would eclipse the Obama Hope poster, which symbolized his campaign. It would literally be one of the most iconic images in American history. During the Black Lives Matter riots in the summer of 2020, the San Francisco Police Department made a little change to their policy regarding mugshots and stopped releasing them when they should be part of the public record in order to, quote, combat racial bias, which is an Orwellian term meaning they were covering up the high percentage of black people who get arrested because they are only 13% of the population, black men only 6%, but account for about half of all violent crimes in America. And so you're not supposed to talk about that fact. And by showing the mugshots of the demographics of criminals in America, it makes people think too much. In 2017, also in the Bay Area, they stopped releasing surveillance footage of robberies on the train and at the train station because they wanted to avoid stereotypes. They wanted to avoid the facts. They wanted to cover up the fact that a certain demographic of people were responsible for the vast majority of those robberies. Black people.
Well, questions are mounting over BART's refusal to release surveillance video showing recent robberies on their trains.
Turns out recorded video from these cameras of the recent rash of teen mob robberies won't be released to the public.
To release these videos would create a high level of racially insensitive commentary.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
These are actual mugshots of just a small sample of the Antifa members who have been arrested in Portland, Oregon, from the ongoing insurrection up there at the hands of the communists. And every single one of them looks demon-possessed. I mean, just look at these features. This is just some gallows humor, which, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is grim and ironic humor in a desperate or hopeless situation. I know that some people think that this is going to boost Donald Trump's popularity, and it might actually do that. It's definitely going to galvanize the base, but this is probably just the first of several indictments that are going to come, and they very well may put him in prison. I mean, we really are a collapsing empire. Financially, politically, morally, patriotically, intellectually, spiritually. This country's going down. Bud Light, the once king of beers, is now the king of queers. They literally hired transgender TikTok star Dylan Mulvaney to be the face of their March Madness campaign for college basketball. Well, it is madness, but of a different kind. At the Country Music Television Awards show on Sunday night, they featured drag queens. While we've come to expect such cultural Marxism and LGBTQ propaganda at the major award shows like the Grammys, MTV Video Music Awards, the Billboard Music Awards, all of them, few would expect to see such, I can't call it degeneracy, that would be hate speech, such things at the Country Music Television Awards shows, but of course, it's there. For generations, this kind of behavior, entertainment if you want to call it that, was contained where it belonged, in the gay nightclubs. But of course, over the last few years, since the gates of hell have been opened, now they're cramming it down everybody's throats on family-friendly television shows, or what were once family-friendly television shows, and even invading elementary schools. What kind of a country, what kind of a society, what kind of a planet, what species would allow this to happen? Not just once or twice, that it maybe slipped through the cracks and some weirdo was in charge of the school. This is now the norm in the United States of America.
Anybody can do drag. Drag is for anybody and everybody who wants to put on a fun costume and get up on stage and entertain people.
If it's for everybody, then why is it that drag has always only been a staple in the queer communities? Notice how normal people have never wanted anything to do with it, other than maybe a group of adult women who would go to drag shows for one of their friends' birthday parties or for a bachelorette party because it was so weird. But now, in the last couple years, they're literally recruiting children and trying to get them into drag. This is not normal. This is evil. This is satanic.
Everybody should try drag at least once.
Everybody should try drag at least once, says the drag queen to the 8-year-old boy. And again, these aren't just a few isolated instances. This is now the mainstream culture in America. This is what the teachers' union in the United States of America is endorsing. I better stop before I say something that's going to get me arrested, because you get arrested these days just for posting memes on Twitter. By the way, I'm on Locals now if you want to support me over there. It's basically like a Patreon, except they support free speech. So you can sponsor my channel for $5 a month and get access to the exclusive Locals community, which is basically like a private members-only Facebook page. Of course, there's a link to that in the description below, so click it, head on over there, and check it out.